even under these circumstances, here we are celebrating her life. The show must go on. I think that's what Dorothy would say, right? The show must go on. Dorothy's life, there's no way, words aren't enough, really. What a big life that she had, and her obituary's in the back, and if you haven't read it, you should. It's a trip. And also, on the back page of the bulletin, I want you to notice that there is a piano scholarship fund that is important to the family so that her legacy will live on. So there's an opportunity for you to kind of let the music go on, the entertainment go on in that way. And then finally, Dorothy was a member of the parish, and for some years ago. And the entertainer that she supported one of our beloved outreach projects, which is a nursing home. There's a nursing home not far from here called The Grove, and it is almost all Medicaid patients. And Dorothy would go up weekly and play piano there for the residents. And you can just imagine her sharing her talent, what that brought to them. So we hold a special place in Dorothy's holds a special place in our hearts.
There are three things I want to talk about Mom, and I'll make it brief. When Mom was a little girl, as you know, she was adopted, but when she was a little girl, she had this power of being able to know when people were going to die. And she would be walking with her mother on the street, and she'd say, "Oh, Mama, I know that person is going to die soon." And the mama would say, "No, she's not. What are you talking about?" And then within a week, the person would die. And this happened a lot. And so the mother took her to the Catholic Church priest and exorcised her to get the demons out. Well, we don't know if the demons ever got out of her or not, but there you have it. But then fast forward to her life as a pianist and as an entertainer. And I've seen this myself, and maybe some of you have seen it also, that there were times when people would come up to her, even strangers that she didn't know, to ask for requests. And she was so attuned to music that she would know what that person was going to request before they would request it. And she would start playing it before the person could get the words out of their mouth. It would blow them away every time. So I don't know if that was part of witchiness also or what, but there you have it. Then two little things. We went to Disney World together, and I had my little 8-month-old Andrew with me, and Mom, we were just walking along, and the person was just getting up, the person who was out in the pretend street playing Scott Joplin or Ragtime, and the guy took a break. Big mistake for that guy. Mom sat down and started playing Ragtime better than Scott Joplin himself used to play it. And then, she just kept playing and playing and playing. The guy came back. You know what? There was a huge crowd that formed around her. They booed the guy from Disney and wanted her to stay and keep playing the Ragtime. That was Mom. She was ever the entertainer and ever the competitor. Believe me. All right, one more little thing. Even in the very last couple of months, she was in the hospital. This is maybe in October. She was in the hospital. She had a tiny little fracture of some kind. And word was getting out. This is a woman who knows how to play the piano. It was probably getting out from me. I don't know, but anyhow. And then they were wheeling her down to take an X-ray, and I happened to be with. I said, there's a beautiful piano in that reception in the hospital. So they quickly did the X-ray, and they said, "Oh my God, we've got to hear this woman play the piano." So they took her to the hospital room, the hospital lobby, where there was a gorgeous piano sitting there. And she sat down, and she played, and she turned that hospital into a piano bar. And by the time they were through, she had 50 people standing around her listening to her play. Can you believe that? I said, "Mom, why don't you ask her tips?" But there you have it. And last thing, perhaps the story that best demonstrates the the otherworldliness of Mom. She was from another world when it came to music. And she lived 2 lifetimes inside one time frame on the planet. She did. She didn't have just one life here. She had 2. Most of us only get 1. She got 2. And there was she played something called In a Chinese City at her high school graduation. I said, Mom, I'm going to go get that music. It was very difficult to get that music. There were only 6 copies left in the world. And I consulted with the Northbrook Library, and they went all over the country. They went all over the world to try to find this music. And then they found it at Texas Wesleyan University. And they let me take it, and it had cardboard around it. And I took it to Mom, and she opened it, and she started to cry because it was the exact music, the exact paper, the exact music that George Anson had used to teach her how to play that. And somehow, after 85 years, that exact music had found itself back into my mother's hands. That is a story. That is really a story. And it just points out the unique, there will never be another Dorothy. There will never be another Dorothy. There will never be another Bob. And I love you all so much for all the claps and all of the support and all of the tips you gave her. And that's all I have to say about that. And I was going to read this. Do I have time to read The Piano Bar in the Sky? So Mom used to say, someday I'm going to be at that big piano bar in the sky. Dear Mom, now you are sitting at the big piano bar in the sky, entertaining the legions of spirit guides who return to your music after their challenging days down here with all of us, trying to get us to do the right things, trying to get us to listen through our intuition, keeping us out of harm's way, teaching us to be kind to others, be generous and courageous and loving and helpful and gracious and steadfast and dutiful, sometimes successfully, sometimes not. What a tall order all of your celestial customers have. By the time they get back to the heavens, they must be exhausted of it after all that they do down here, and they make a beeline for the bar where you are waiting because they've snatched you for that job and seated you at that piano bar bench that had been vacant until you got there. Then you begin to play, and your wing tips produce the most glorious arrangements of sounds that the heavens have heard in a long, long time, Mom, at least for almost 103 human years. Your music soothes the angels and demons alike, because the demons, too, can hear it from their underworld. Your spin on their favorites energizes them, infuses them with gaiety and the boost that they need in order to be able to get to their arduous tasks the next day, as they endeavor to guide us scallywags, whether for good or mischief. You are still in training to become the master musician of all the heavens, hoping to learn the ropes from Archangel Sandalphon himself. You've been pushed to the front of the line of contenders for that coveted spot because you, like other musical angels in the throng, have auditioned, and you have surpassed them all, Mom, just like you did on Earth. There's really no difference between here and there when it comes to your music. You do what you do, and you do it better than anyone, even any of them up there, where your competition surely must be more stiff than it was when you were down here. I remember when you left us. You didn't leave with fanfare or drama. No, you quietly floated away on red roses, woven inside misty sharps and flats, quarter notes and eighth notes, to your own sound of special tones, arpeggios, glissandos, and advanced chord progressions, so intricate that none of the deity had ever been able to master, with the exception of Sandalphon's accompanist, and of course, Sandalphon himself. When you arrived to heaven, those souls who had themselves been musicians on earth gathered around you and became immediately awestruck by the musical gift that you were returning to their sphere, that gift that God himself had bestowed upon you when you had arrived here as an infant for your musical spiritual mission. Mom, keep in touch. Let us know when you replace Sandalphon, considered the angel of music. Please let us know when you become the master musician of all the heavens. In the meantime, please continue to guide me and all of us in our endeavors. especially our musical ones. I love you, Mom. Susie. Susie.
And I do believe that there is a piano bar up in the sky that my mom is at. But I'm also going to tell you, the bar is closed today. You know why? Because she's right here. I really believe that. She's here and she's enjoying this day. And she doesn't want anybody here to be sad. I mean, it's a day of emotions for sure, but she doesn't want anybody to be sad. If you know my mom, and obviously everybody does because you're here, you knew what kind of an individual she was. She always had even if it was a bad day, she always had something positive to say. And of course, it would be something great that she would want everybody to be thinking about today, something that they would be wanting to enjoy the day. Her greatest gift was wanting to give, and I really believe that was her true gift. But I'm really grateful that I had a chance to be her son for my 66 years. Professionally, obviously, she was a child prodigy musically. She had musicality. She was a genius, in my opinion. I'm sure Susan would agree with that. She always had a job. She always had a job. She was so good at her job, she always had a job, and she knew how to get jobs, and she knew how to keep jobs. She was a great marketer of herself. And she never had, talent agents. She never had a talent agent. She got maybe hired once through a talent agent, and she didn't want to give up her money because she thought that she could do a better job than the talent agent. And she did. She never stayed at a job so long where her music was stale to the crowd. She would leave and then have a return engagement. She would leave again, come back and go to another place downtown. And there were a lot of clubs downtown. So it was a cycle where she always had work. And as any musicians here know that that's difficult to do, to always have work. So imagine that. She was almost 103 when she died, and she played the piano from the age 3 to 103. 100 years she played the piano. And I really learned a lot in terms of work ethic from her. Man, she was the best. Let's see, what else can I tell you? She had some great stories. That was one of the things that I feel privileged at. Growing up with Mom, she always came home from work. It seemed almost every night. I'm sure it wasn't, but she came home every night with a story about something. She met a lot of local celebrities, Dick Butkus and Mike Ditka and Johnny Morris and Jeannie Morris and Ron Sandemer and Ernie Banks, all of these local star sports celebrities. But she also met and performed for the big players, Dustin Hoffman. Elizabeth Taylor, she was awestruck because she was in the same elevator with Elizabeth Taylor. She would come home and tell these wonderful stories about all these different people that she met. She came home one day and she said, "Peter, do you know who John Bonham is?" I said, "Yeah, I know John Bonham. Yeah, he's the drummer for Led Zeppelin. Oh, I met him today. He was in the crowd over at the Empire Room. And he came up and told me what a great musician I was. And she even described what he had for lunch: 2 martinis and a couple of chocolate eclairs. And that was her story. So anyway, that's a little bit of my 2 cents in terms of what Mom was about for me. And I love you, Mom. I know you're here. Enjoy the day. Thank you.
So my name is Cassie, and I am just listening to this. It just brings back a flood of unbelievable memories. My sisters and I ran a restaurant in Norfolk called the Cypress Inn. And downstairs was the Brasket and this special little piano bar ambiance. And just like Susan said, we had a piano player that got up and took a break. Dorothy sat in, and Dorothy was like, "Watch this one." The next week she was hired. She was phenomenal. But what I loved about Dorothy is that we had a place called, it was kind of like Cheers. It was everyone knows your name. But with her, everyone knows your song. Because when you walked in the door, she would play the song that you love most. And it's like just people want to know that you care and that you know who they are. So when she would play that song, it's like, oh my gosh, I feel like I'm home, they know me. So it was incredible for our business. So not only was she just warm and delightful with the people, but she made them feel so welcomed and loved. So I just thank you for who she was being for all of us and for my sisters and our family. She was just a blessing.
Hi, I'm Roberta Cook, and I met Susan about 11 years ago. And Susan is as amazing as her mother, and I love her to pieces, and I'm so glad to call her my friend. Well, she told me about her mother. Her mother was playing up at Hackney's, and she said, "Oh, I want you to come with me one night and hear my mother play." And I said, "How old is she?" And she said, "Oh, in her 90s. I go, "Wow, all right." So I went with Susan, and I was just blown away. This woman was the most wonderful piano player I have ever heard in my life. And I love piano music. And in fact, I even have a brother-in-law who plays the piano for his livelihood. But I never heard anyone like Dorothy. And I'm so grateful to Susan because she gave me the opportunity to meet her mother, and her mother played all of my favorite songs. I was like, "Oh, this is so cool. I just have all these favorite songs and I never get to hear them." And then Susan, on Valentine's Day, a couple years ago, had her mother come and play, and she invited me, and I was able to come, and I was so grateful, and I enjoyed myself so much. Your mother is so amazing, and I know she's here with us, and I know she gave us this beautiful day, and I thank you, Susan, for being my friend. I love you, and I know how much you loved your mother. You told me. Thank you for the opportunity to meet a wonderful woman.
I'm Craig Nelson, and some of you know me and some don't. Susan and I were married for 28 years, and Dorothy was my mother-in-law. But you know, mothers-in-law survive even the marriages. She was in my life for 42 years. First, I want to give you one little vignette of a story. You talked about all these stories, Peter, that she would come home with. So one, she told a lot. She would audition cab drivers because, you know, she trusted the cab drivers to bring her home. One didn't make the cut. His name was Pierre. And those who know the story are already laughing. So she was going home. "Dorothy, how is your evening?" "Oh, it was fine, Pierre." And she noticed there was a bag in the back seat. And then, not too long, the bag started to move. She said, "Pierre, the bag is moving." "Oh, it is nothing." The bag moved closer to her. "Pierre, this bag is moving close to me. What's in the bag?" "It is nothing, Dorothy. It is my pet anaconda." Pierre didn't make the cut. I met Dorothy in 1979. It was a meeting that Susan had arranged. She said, "If you would come over from work at your lunch hour." I was working at Standard Oil at that time, which was headquartered in Chicago, right on Randolph Street. "You can see her play." And I did. I went to the Empire Room, and it's a beautiful two-story high room. You open it, you're going into a palace if you haven't been there. And there, on a raised platform, was Dorothy at a concert grand piano. This little lady in a formal, playing her heart out. And there was a filled room. If you can imagine, the lunchtime in those days was really something. And this was the place where all these notables that Peter talked about would come in. Everyone coming through town would stop at the Empire Room. Also, it was the place where the Chicago Machine hung out. You would see at that time Mayor Byrne, all the aldermen, not to mention a few of the mafiosos. Susan got her attention that we had come in. We took a table toward the back. She played her set, and then she started in on all these showstoppers, one after another, every one a knuckle breaker, ending with a 12-minute rendition of Rhapsody in Blue, which of course brought the house down. So she took a break, worked the tables a little bit, then came back to ours. And she was something like, at that moment, Glinda the Good Witch. Hello, hello. She could, as Susan said once, charm the bees out of the trees. And she could. But there was another side to her, too. She could make a sailor blush with the way she swore. After we were married, we lived in the city at first. And when the baby came, it was babies, it was twins, and Dorothy moved in for a month. She became really mom, grandmom. She helped out with everything. Nothing was beneath her to do. She cooked, she changed diapers. In the clinches, she did all of the tasks of anyone. She wasn't simply glorious and star-studded, though she was that too. By and by, we moved out of the city. We moved to Skokie. A few years after that, she moved to Skokie so that she could be nearby. She retired briefly in Des Plaines. We moved to Northbrook, and at a certain point in time, when all the planets were in alignment, we moved her to Northbrook. We got a condo, she moved in. Now, to get a job. Well, so with some stealth, I arranged for her to have an audition. But there was already a trio playing at the local hangout called the Cypress Inn. If you know the story of this, this is also a good one. So the house was packed. It was a Friday night. We arranged to have the manager and owner there. And I went up to the trio as they were taking a break. And I said, "Would you allow my elderly mother-in-law to possibly try the piano? She hasn't played in a while, and this would be such a nice audience." And she said, "Oh, not at all. Where's the elderly lady?" So we bring up the elderly lady. She said, "Oh, thank you, thank you." And she sits down to the piano, and I don't know what I'm going to do. I haven't played. "Oh, that's all right. Just no one will care if you make a mistake or two. Just play." So they're packing up their stuff to go take a break, and they don't pay her any attention. And suddenly they hear "Kitten on the Keys," which is a real and everybody looks up and they go, "Huh? It's coming out of her?" And from then on, then she does a Khachaturian, then she does the ritual fire dance of Defia, and then she does again this Rhapsody in Blue, and the house came down. Needless to say, she got the job. And the owners had to tell the trio, "You've been replaced by the trio of one." So we say a tribute to Dorothy, a life well lived, and a performing arts life well accomplished.
He restoreth my soul. He leadeth me in the paths of righteousness for his name's sake. Yea, though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, I will fear no evil, for thou art with me. Thy rod and thy staff, they comfort me. Thou preparest a table before me in the presence of mine enemies. Thou anointest my head with oil, my cup runneth over. Surely goodness and mercy shall follow me all the days of my life, and I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. All of us have troubles in our lives. All of us. That's part of being human. Whatever it is we have to face, the music we have to face in our lives, we all have troubles, yes? Yeah. Dorothy had troubles. Yeah, sure. Here's the thing about playing music. If you're good at it, if you're any good at it, and Dorothy was clearly amazing at it, you have to practice and learn and practice and learn and remember, and it is hard work to become a great piano player. Yeah? It is hard work to learn how to do something so well that you can just forget it. That you can sit down and be one with the notes and just play it. Or to go into a level that Dorothy hit of sort of almost an intuitive level, right? Of playing music. It was a lot of trouble for her to become that good. And my guess is that whatever trouble she was facing interiorly in her life, she somehow was able to keep playing in this beautiful way right through them. She made living look easy, it sounds like, just as she made playing the piano look easy. That's not normal. We don't see that all the time, and this is what I hear is this swell of emotion around her talent and her ability to live in this way, to play music in this way. And we don't see it that often. So we really sort of stop in awe of that. But here's the invitation for us all today. Because all of our lives have a poetry to them. All of our lives have an invitation to truly step up to the plate and live them, and to live them graciously and lovingly and well. That's the invitation today, to live a little bit more like Dorothy played. is what Dorothy found. She wanted this read at her grave. Do not stand at my grave and weep. I am not there. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am sunlight on the unripened grain. I am the gentle autumn rain. When you awaken in the morning's hush, I am the swift uplifting rush of quiet birds in circled flight. I am soft stars that shine at night. Do not stand at my grave and cry. I am not there. I did not die. And we commit her body to the ground, earth to earth, ashes to ashes, dust to dust. The Lord bless her and keep her. The Lord make his face to shine upon her and be gracious to her. The Lord lift up his countenance upon her and give her peace. Let's give our mother a round of applause.
However, when I was invited to hear your mother play, I was just enthralled with her ability and everything that she did. But the one thing that impressed me the most, and it shows my level of understanding of music, was her chopsticks rendition.
Yeah.
It was amid all the flourishes and all of the ups and downs of what I was listening to, there was chopsticks in there somewhere. I mean, it was absolutely beautiful. It just showed me her level of accomplishment and her skills, her ability, her ability to play music. So it was just a wonderful, wonderful experience. So thank you, and thank you for introducing me to your mother and inviting me to all of the wonderful parties where I heard her play. Thank you.
And Dolores and I have known each other almost 40 years. So she's seen Mom a lot. Yeah. 40 years. Right, Dolores, almost? Yeah.
All right.
And here comes Ron Bernardi.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Thank
he'll
you.
hold his own.
I first met Dorothy, at Sunset, and she lived across the street in the apartment, and we would, she had her cane and didn't see too well, so we would walk her over. So I walked over one time. Come on, Dorothy, hold on my arm. We'll go across. And they had a big smile. We went over there and dropped the groceries off. She goes, "Come on in, sit down." And I didn't even know she played the piano, to be honest with you. That was many years ago. And she played the piano. She was amazing. Unbelievable. It was such a treat. We sat there, we talked, she told me stories, came back. Then in 2006, the next story, we had Schermerfest, Northbrook Historical Society, and I have a parade vehicle. It's a 1915 circus truck with a calliope on the back. I said, "Dorothy, you ever play a calliope?" "No, I never have. Would you like to?" She goes, "Oh, I would love to." So it's parked down next to the Historical Society. Shut up. And a building, and she climbs up there and she sits down. And the calliope, they have 43 pipes, 43 keys. And so you had to shrink down her notes or whatever. And she had to be very light. So she just played that thing. It was unbelievable. And she was just like a little kid. Next, I was looking at my file. I had some old pictures. December 17th, I'm not sure what year it was, right before Christmas. Says, "Dorothy, the calliope's going to be in front of the store. Would you come and play some Christmas songs?" She goes, "I would love to." She comes in, bundled up, stocking hat, gloves with the fingers cut off, at the end. And she played and played, you know, and the weather was, you know, wasn't exactly that warm, but she went out there. She was absolutely fantastic. And the other thing, the last thing I think of what I learned from Dorothy, I go, why did she live to be so long? And I think that she had joy. She not only happiness, but she had joy. And there's an old acronym in the Christian faith that says you put Jesus first, others second, and yourself last. And that's a good recipe for joy. And she, you know, even Jesus himself said, I didn't come to be served, but to serve. She was so focused on others and had an uncanny ability to reach out and engage people that her joy was in her giving. And I get up every day and I said, boy, I hope I can give to someone someday. It might just be a listening ear. And she certainly was an example for me, and she's an amazing woman. God bless you, Dorothy.
Thank you. My husband Joe and I met Dorothy at Hackney's one night. We went in there for dinner with another couple. And after going back a couple times and watching her play and everything, we learned that she would take a cab back and forth. And we live in Highland Park, so we said to her, well, you know, when we come out here or whatever, we'll give you a call first and see, you know, if you want us to pick you up. And so then we got to the point where we would pick her up and take her home from her stints at Hackney's. And we had such a time. We heard the snake story too, so as we drove her home one night. But she was such a lady. She was unbelievable. We enjoyed every moment being with her, and we feel so grateful and blessed that we had the opportunity to be her friend. So.
And while taking her home, I would usually walk her up to the door, and she always managed to give me a smooch before I left and thank me. But we really enjoyed her music, and she'd always play tunes, Rhapsody in Blue being one of them. But she used to come in, she'd start playing Rhapsody in Blue all the time. One of my favorites. But we sure enjoyed our time with her. A lot of fond memories.
Well, my name is Ed Hawkins, and I don't know her as Dorothy Olson or Grandma or Mom, but I know her as Mrs. Paletti. I was one of her students. It started with her when I was 5 years old. And she not only taught me the love of music, but she made me learn. And I will always be grateful to her because for all this long 58 years we have been friends. And she discovered my voice when I was about 10 years old. And she said, you know what, Ed, I think you're a singer. And I think you ought to sing. So long story short, I spent most of my life singing. And she was the one who basically discovered it. But she taught everybody in our neighborhood. When we lived in Rogers Park, I grew up there, all the kids in the neighborhood took from Mrs. Paletti. And she would come to the school, you talk about a giving nature, she would come to our school and she would play for all our assemblies and our what we had an 8th grade talent show there that she would put together along with one of the teachers there. And she was really something. I used to watch her bounce on that piano and said, man, if I could just play a fraction of how she played. And I remember when she told me how to play the bounce chords like she played. I was so thrilled. But anyways, I just wanted to say that I loved her very much. And she was very, very dear to me. And I will miss her, but her spirit is just so alive in me. She gave me, I remember the last time I was with her, she gave me a picture, one of her old headshots. And she signed it for me so I could hang it up in my office. And she was one of a kind, absolutely one of a kind. No other piano teacher I can, and I'm representing all the kids that took from her, and we're all friends on Facebook, so everybody's like, go, 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 you know, just let her know, you know, let everybody know how much we loved her. And so, and that's the good thing, that she gave so much to our neighborhood when I was a child, and she was a big part.
My name's Linda Slotke, and this is my husband Barry, and we are cousins of a lot of these people here, and Susan and I still haven't figured out whether we're second or third cousins, but at any rate, we've known each other for probably 40 years, and I don't even know how that came about, but they came to my house, and I was fortunate enough to have a Steinway baby grand piano that my grandmother played all of her life, and she was a music teacher. So Dorothy loved to come and play the Steinway, and so I have 7 siblings, and we all are musical to some degree or another, not professional at all, but we got our own private shows from Dorothy every time she came, and even when we moved different places, the last place she came to our house last August. Peter and Susan brought her down, and I have a little electric piano now, and Susan just said, "Oh, Mom, just go play it. It's just like the baby grand." So she went, and I don't think she could see it very well, and she went over there and made it sound like a Steinway. And the nice thing was that she always asked all of us to play, and we all used to like to sing together, so she would have us all get around the piano and sing. Anyway, we love her, and we will miss her greatly, and rest in peace, Dorothy.
I play the piano myself, and I've always been amazed at Dorothy's ability to play from memory. Her entire repertoire from memory, and you couldn't stomp her. And I would play and practice and practice and practice, and I think I have a piece, and then I take the music away, and then my mind goes blank. But Dorothy could see music, and she had this tremendous repertoire all in her head. And that's one of the things I remember.
Can I just add something to that? I just want to add a quick note to that, what he said about she played from memory. Somebody would say, "Oh, can you play this for me?" And she'd go, "Oh, I don't know if I know that or not." And all of a sudden she'd start, playing, and all of a sudden she's going like this, and she's playing like crazy, playing the whole song. So she remembered it, that's for sure. But that happened many times we saw where she said, "I'm not sure that I know the song." She always did.
And if she didn't know it, she would wing it. And also, she had about between 4,000 and 5,000 songs in her repertoire, all different genres of music: classical, pop, rock, ballads. And so I think that that's what makes her. I say to people, she's the best pianist out there. Not because she's greater than Rachmaninoff, but because let's see Rachmaninoff play some jazz now, shall we?
Thanks, Susan. My name is Denny Hillinger, and I'm one of the 3 sisters who inherited the Cypress Inn from our late father back in the day. And when I came to the funeral today, it was an 8-minute drive from my health club to St. James the Less, and I'm like, oh gosh, what should I put on the radio? I'm like, should I listen to 90.1, a little moody? I'm like, no, I'm going to play my playlist. I only have 1,000 songs on my playlist. And sure enough, the song that first came on was Amazing Grace. So now I'm like bawling. And then the second song that came on was, I like to write the songs that make the whole world sing, Further Crying. And then People by Barbara Streisand, which I think encapsulates your mom. And then the last and fourth and final song, Bring Me Into the Church, was Happy Days Are Here Again. And I just thought, there we go. That's Dorothy, right? And I thanked Susan and Peter for sharing your mom with us, because I always think it's quite amazing for the children or the heirs of somebody that's in the spotlight or a celebrity of sorts, that you availed her to the world. So you gave her to us for a little place on Shermer Road called the Cypress Inn, and I just appreciate it. I know our customers over the years appreciated it, and she was light and she was joy. And when she came in and sat down, people who didn't know her would be like, oh, look at that little lady. Then she'd play, and they'd be like, holy Hannah, come on over. And but I also too, I would be lost without saying this, I was so amazed by your mom's ability to sew. And I'm like, Dorothy, you made that dress? And she had a little choker on, and then she'd walk home to Cherry Lane condominiums from the Cypress Inn, not quite as long when you guys, but just really just a joy. That's it, Ron, a joy. And just the light. You don't run across too many people like that. And I think just it's been about 20 years since we've owned the Cypress Inn. When we had it, you kind of, I don't know, you just went to work. Not having it now, it was such a slice of heaven for us, and Dorothy was such a part of that. So I just want to say thank you to Peter and to Susan. Thanks.
Hi, I'm Tracy. I'm Denny and Cassie's sister, also one of the three that owned the Cypress, and we're the great recipients of Dorothy's generosity, her creativity, her mastery of the piano. The thing that stands out to me, yes, the sewing, the creativity, it blew me away. When she worked for us, she was in her early 80s. That blew me away. Now to find out, and I'm so grateful, Peter and Susan, for sending those clips, because I watched each one of them, and they were just amazing. And it was also a little journalism education, because all 5 of these journalists were at the same exact event at the Empire Room, and yet you got 5 different views on the exact same take and the exact same information, but 5 different windows into the life of Dorothy Olson Pauletti. But the part that really speaks to me, as it took a little time after the service to go and just peruse through the photographs and the history and the notes that she wrote of her own life, what comes to mind is the word tenacity and can-do spirit. I never heard Dorothy ever complain. I never heard her ever say anything. She walked home. She walked to work. She made her own clothes. She just the stories you guys told about the Arizona, and then like the 3 jobs within the, all that stuff. It says, I'm going to make it happen. And I don't think she ever had to talk herself into it. You know what I mean? It was just like, that's going to happen. Never a question in her mind that she was going to be successful. She was going to get stuff done. And she's going to share her gifts with someone like you and say, I see a talent here. I'm going to open up that door and let's share that gift with somebody else. So I just appreciate and I thank you for sharing your mom with us. And grateful to have been able to glimpse a little bit of her time. Thanks.
I just wanted to add a little bit onto that, a little bit Ron said. What I learned from Dorothy is just about how to be love and light in the world. She was a light that attracted people from miles around that would come to this little watering hole, but she was also love, and that's what Jesus teaches us. It's like, how do you love somebody else? She's always about the other person. It's like she's always interested in knowing where they're from, what their story is, and it just attracted people by the thousands. And I just feel so blessed that I had the opportunity to learn from her, watch from, and benefit. Boy, what a gift. So, I've got to pay that forward.
I only met Dorothy twice. I spoke at the service. But when I did meet her, I just felt like this was someone that was exceptional, extraordinary, just super. And she would talk with me. We talked on both occasions. And she was just amazing. I just really felt like she was an inspiration to me. And so I just wanted to share that with you. And when I possibly know that I may never see another person, I talk to people wherever I go. And if we strike up a conversation like I did with Susan, and I feel like, well, I'll probably never see this person again, I always say, happy trails to you until we meet again. And so today, when we were putting those flowers in the spot where she's at, I said, well, Dorothy, till we meet again.
One of the things that came to my mind as Eddie was talking, if you've ever seen in 2007, Harry Porterfield had this show on ABC 7 News called Someone You Should Know, and Mom was on there. And I watched it the other day. I posted it on my Facebook page if you want to look at it, and feel free to go do that. One of the things she said in there, she goes, everyone has a talent. And when you have that talent, you don't keep it to yourself. You give it. You give it away. And that is the secret. Right. That is the secret.
Somewhere around like 4th to 5th grade, I tried to learn piano. Grandma tried to teach me how to play piano, and I'm like, oh boy. Well, I know Grandma. She's an amazing pianist. If she's an amazing pianist, I should be pretty good too, especially for my first day. I was wrong. I couldn't even play like the C note. Like, okay, which one's the C note? Ding, and then I just click on the A note instead of like, no, that's not it. All right, well, I have a lot to learn.
Hi, I'm Anthony, Peter's son. I'm not sure if I can really say all that much that hasn't been said about her. I was blessed to have her in my life, and she lived such a fantastic life. I don't know anyone else in the world who has lived such an amazing life as she has. But, one of my earliest memories of her, I was doing a talent show at my elementary school. So she helped me out twice, actually, 4th grade and 5th grade. 4th grade, she helped me learn Für Elise on the piano, and in 5th grade, she helped me learn The Entertainer on the piano. And did it all by memory, the performance. And my music teacher at school said she never heard the piano play as good at that talent show. So I had Grandma to thank for that. She just had such an incredible spirit. She could really. Every time I talked to her, I learned something new, either about her life or about how to live life in general. So very blessed to have had her in my life, just like everyone else here. Everyone she came across, she touched.
Take it away. So I'm Jennifer. I'm one of the 3 granddaughters, and I remember as a child going over to Grandma's house and having special afternoons and evenings. She would always ask us what we wanted for dinner, and she would make us our favorite. And for me, that was her baked chicken and her au gratin potatoes. And then she would always make some tasty dessert like brownies or pie. And it was just a safe place to go, and we could rant about my annoying brothers. And I would discuss what I was doing in school, and she would often say, "Oh, better you than me." And I would kind of complain about my parents and how they were being so unreasonable about whatever. And she would always have some wisdom or some advice, but it was never a judgmental place. It was always very safe and calm, which is what I needed growing up in a house of 7. And then she would play whatever I wanted, and my favorites were already discussed, but The Kitten on the Keys and The Ritual Fire Dance and Rhapsody in Blue, of course. And we would watch those old classic movies like North by Northwest and musicals like Oklahoma, and play cards. And whenever we would part ways, I was always very sad, but she would give me a goodie sack, and there were treats in there so that we could so I could munch on them on the way home, and not just for me, but she would make one for all of my brothers too. And those are such fond memories. And as I got older, I realized how many talents she actually had, and she was always so well dressed. She had her own wardrobe of all of the things that she made. And when she would come to our house gatherings and family affairs, she would always play something on the piano. And one thing led to the next and to the next, and she ended up having like a concert, mini concert of her own. And now that I'm grown with my own kids, I notice I'm saying things that she used to say. Like you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and better you than me, kid.
Did you say that?
And
You just say it was a speech.
and then she would say, other things, and I can't remember them now, but so many wisdoms. And I realized that she's not just such an important person in the music community, but she was huge, hugely important in our family, and will be always. And we'll always remember her and keep her memory alive with our stories.
Yeah.
I'm Jeffrey. I'm Dorothy's one of her grandsons, and I also have very fond memories of going over to her place and spending time with her and having the buffalo wings. And she would always make whatever we wanted, but really there were two options: baked chicken or buffalo wings. So I always went with the wings. But I think I kind of took it for granted a little bit as a kid, growing up, being around her music all the time. And I didn't really fully grasp just how amazing she was and what an incredible musician she was until I started playing music. I picked up the saxophone and played it throughout high school, and I entered into a concerto competition. And I didn't realize there was a prearranged piano accompaniment with it. So I went with my sheet music to her, just the saxophone part, and I said, "Can you accompany me?" And she said, "Oh, okay." And she wrote the full accompaniment, all arranged based on just the piece of music that I handed her. And then I later discovered that there was a very boring accompaniment that was pre-written, but hers was much better, of course. And she just made it up. And it was just astounding that she could do that. And that's when I started realizing just how incredible her music was and her piano playing, and not just that she was a performer, but that she could also compose. And yeah, just, I love my grandma, and she's still here with us, and she always will be.
I think more than one, a few lessons too, and some of the other grandchildren piano lessons. I think I was probably the most successful of her of her experiments I took to it. I wound up majoring in college, piano performance, and that was a huge impact. Was her influence, and it's something I'm very grateful for.
Every single time that she would come over to our house, she would hug us